So, what if I told you that the way we try to predict the future is almost completely wrong? I mean, what if all the things we track, the trends, the behaviors, the big choices, are really just noise? And the real answers have been hiding in plain sight the whole time, in the actual structure of things. Okay, let's get into it. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we're going to look at why our crystal balls seem to be so broken. Then, we'll get right into the main event. What even is topology? After that, we'll see what happens when you put that structure under stress, and we'll unpack the rules of how things actually change. And finally, we'll connect it all and see why destiny really is structural.
All right, first up, let's tackle a problem we've all felt, our broken crystal ball. We're going to dig into this myth that you can really know what's coming next just by watching what a system does on the surface.
I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? We have more data than at any point in history, yet we're constantly caught off guard by everything from election results to market crashes. So what gives? Why are we so bad at this? Okay, this slide really lays out the two different ways of looking at the world. On the left, that's our usual approach, right? We're chasing intentions, policies, all that day-to-day behavioral stuff. The source material basically calls this noise. But the real game changer is over on the right. The idea is that the future is already limited by something much deeper, its fundamental structure, its topology. A system just can't become something its own architecture makes impossible. So that leads us to the big question. What exactly is this thing called topology? Let's go ahead and unfold this hidden map of destiny. You should think of topology as the complete architectural blueprint for a system. It's not just one piece of it. It's the shape, the pathways, the weak spots, the whole shebang. It dictates what's possible, where it's going to crack under pressure, and ultimately, whether it'll stand or fall when things get rough. And to get a little more specific, topology is all of these things working together. It's the system's overall shape, you know? It's the pathways that energy or information flows through, the hidden fault lines where cracks are just waiting to appear, and the key structures that are holding everything together. It's the very foundation of what that system is. And here's the kicker. Because that foundation is what it is, it determines pretty much everything that can happen within that system. It dictates how it bends, where it's going to break, and this is the big one, which potential futures are just structurally off the table, impossible from the start. And this quote just nails it. This is really the core thesis of this whole explainer. All the actions and choices we see, the behavior, that's just the ripple on the surface. The real driver, the deep, unseen force, is topology. Okay, so if topology is the blueprint, how do we actually see it in the real world? Well, that brings us to our next section. This is where structure meets stress, and we see how putting a system under load reveals its true, predetermined future. So load here can be any kind of stress. Economic pressure, a huge political shift, a flood of new information. But here's the key distinction. The load doesn't create the outcome. It just reveals it. It's kind of like pressing on a piece of wood. The pressure doesn't create the grain, it just exposes the weak points that were already there, built right into its structure from the very beginning. And the fascinating part is that how a system reacts isn't some big mystery. It's predictable. This table gives us a great cheat sheet. If you know the topology, you know how it's going to deform. For example, a company with a really rigid, top-down structure, when the market shifts, it's not going to bend, it's going to snap. A political movement that's fragmented, under pressure, it doesn't regroup, it just scatters. The future is written in its present form. So this predictability leads us to some pretty specific rules that govern how systems change. In this next section, we're going to dig into the dynamics of it all, collapse and coherence. You know what's really wild is that when a system breaks down, it's not chaotic, it's not random at all. It breaks along these pre-existing fault lines, these deep structural contradictions. And these lines tell you exactly where the collapse is going to start and precisely how it's going to spread. Now, the opposite of collapse is coherence. Think of it as structural health. A system with high coherence, like the one on the left, is stable, it's adaptable. That gives it a really wide range of possible futures. But a system with low coherence, like the one on the right, it's brittle, fragile. Its future is incredibly narrow, with not many outcomes other than just falling apart. And this even helps explain the timing of destiny. The threshold distance is really just how much of a punch a system can take before it's forced to transform. Some systems are built like tanks with long thresholds. They can absorb stress for decades.
Others, though, have really short thresholds. They are always just one shock away from a total chaotic change. All right, let's pull all this together and really put it to work. In our final section, we're going to see how we can use this structural lens to understand some massive topics, from the future of AI all the way to the fate of entire civilizations. This takes us right back to where we started and shows us the fundamental mistake in most forecasting. Behavioral models, they focus on the noise, what a system does, but structural models, they focus on destiny, what a system is. It's the difference between watching the ripples and actually analyzing the shape of the pond itself. Now check this out. Think about what this implies for artificial intelligence. A true synthetic mind, if we build it with a coherent architecture, won't be this random, unpredictable thing. Its destiny will be literally written into its core topology, meaning its evolution could actually be predictable, stable, and deterministic, all because it's constrained by its own structure. And this idea just keeps scaling up. The rise and fall of whole societies? At the end of the day, it's not really about the leaders, the laws, or the ideologies. It's about the underlying topology of that civilization, its fault lines, its level of coherence, its ability to handle load. Destiny, it turns out, is structural, not ideological. And that's really the essence of it all. If you want to understand where something is headed, a person, a company, a country, stop getting distracted by the day-to-day behavior. Look at its underlying structure. That right there is the heart of what the source calls structural cognition. So that leaves us with one final big question to take away from all this. Instead of just focusing on our goals or intentions, maybe the real question we should be asking ourselves is this: what are the hidden structures, the invisible topologies in our own lives and our own work that are already shaping the futures available to us?